You've seen this person. Maybe you are this person. Their partner is a walking red flag, and everyone in their life has, at some point, suggested they leave. They know it's bad. It's not that they haven't thought about leaving, they've thought about it more times than they'd ever admit. They've made the list of reasons in their head. They've maybe even said it out loud to someone. And then something shifts. The partner gets warm again, or they remember the version they fell for, or the thought of an empty apartment hits harder than the fight did, and they stay. They're not staying because they're stupid or weak or have bad taste in partners. They're staying because their brain has been chemically renovated against their will, and the people who study this for a living have a name for almost everything that's happening. The first piece of this puzzle is something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, which is a fancy way of saying their partner is basically a slot machine. Because if someone is consistently nice to you, your brain barely registers it. But if they're cold, distant, mean, and then suddenly sweet for one afternoon, that sweetness hits like a drug. Researchers have actually shown that dopamine releases more strongly when a reward is unpredictable than when it's reliable, which is the same mechanism that keeps people pulling slot machine levers in Vegas at 3 in the morning. So when your friend says, when it's good, it's really good, they're not lying. And once you understand that, the second thing starts to make sense, which is what's called a trauma bond. The term gets thrown around on TikTok like it just means, I have feelings for someone who's mean to me. But the actual definition is more specific and, honestly, more disturbing. It's a bond that forms when affection and harm come from the same person on a cycle, so the brain starts associating that person with relief, because they're the one who ends the bad feeling they created in the first place. Which is why people in trauma bonds often describe feeling addicted, and why neuroscientists who've looked at it say the brain pathways involved overlap with the ones lit up in actual substance addiction. Now, layer on top of that the sunk cost fallacy, which I think is the most painful one because it's the most logical sounding. This is the same cognitive bias that makes you finish a bad movie because you already paid for the ticket. Applying this to relationships, people stay not because the relationship is good, but because leaving would mean admitting that everything they invested didn't pay off, and nobody wants to feel like they wasted 4 years. So they spend a 5th year trying to make the first 4 make sense, but the math feels right in the moment. Then there's the fear of being alone. People with a high fear of being single were measurably more likely to stay in unsatisfying relationships and even go back to exes they'd already left once. Which means a lot of people are essentially picking a known bad situation over an imagined worse one. And finally, anxious attachment, where the nervous system was wired in childhood to read inconsistency as love, because that's what love looked like growing up. If your earliest model of affection was someone who was warm sometimes and unavailable other times, then a partner who behaves the exact same way, it feels like home. So if you put it all together, you can clearly see that it is not weakness. That's 5 different psychological systems all pointing the same direction, and just leave is asking them to override every single one of them at once. The takeaway is just that staying isn't a character flaw. It's a chemistry problem. And chemistry, eventually, you can change.